I'm not touching upon the policy that many of us have spoken, so I'm not touching upon that. But one point, China, right? I've been hearing China, so there's no need to be afraid of that. Now the Biosecure Act is there, right? We will get the service sector here. It's you like it or not like it, it's either India or to some extent Vietnam or Indonesia, where it will go. Singapore cannot have the space to expand. So it's a service sector which is coming here, and we have to welcome that. And if we are not ready for that service sector welcoming, we might miss the bus. So discovery is one part which is critical. But again, I would say in CGT this is a nice opportunity for industry academia collaboration also, where let the discovery be still in the labs. In US that happens. In US most of the CGT actually is coming in from academic labs, and then the industries are looking only at process development, process characterization. So that saves a lot of time. And so I would say that the Chinese policy, China +1 and the Biosecure Act, global present geopolitics scenario, we are positioned right from a service sector industry. And if you think from a service part, I think that would do a better job than rather only focusing on core discovery aspects of it. Right. And one more thing, Professor Mukhopadhyay, you're talking, I just thought that, while we are giving away the funds, right, present day scenario, also from my present experience, while we are, and the funding agencies are calling for calls for funding and all, they are mostly focusing on discovery aspect. They are not focusing on platform development. Nobody has, in my view at least, maybe I'm wrong, I have not heard a call which is saying they develop a platform for a particular technology and we will give you money. They mostly say that, okay, you work on a particular aspect, you get that money, and then you do it. So of course, in end, it will end up in a publication kind of a scenario where we are, like Professor Mukhopadhyay really, judged it very nicely, and thanks to your experience, that is absolutely normal. That will happen, right?
Great points, Ambarish,
right.
And especially looking at how service sector can play a role in India. And thanks for your very optimistic outlook for the
I don't know if optimistic.
Well, you said let's not fear China.
Let's not be afraid.
That's true. Let's not be afraid of that. So I'll pass on to Lars, our fabulous director at CDFD, and let him reflect on everybody's pointing in academia. You are batting for academia here.
Yeah, so I think Robin will, I'm going to take a leaf from where Robin left off. The mistrust is from both sides, right? So the mistrust is both from the academia for the industry and the industry towards the academia. The academia thinks that we're going to be used as a pair of hands, and basically industry is going to breathe down our necks, and then they're not going to allow us to do any discovery. The industry thinks that these people take money and then run away with it and then do what they feel like, and then ultimately nothing ends up doing that. Unfortunately, that's true. I mean, as much as we would like to hide behind the curtains, that's has been the case. Having said that, there have been several success stories, and the success stories have been largely because of a dialogue that has happened, and nurtured these interactions. And that can't happen just as a one-time investment that an industry comes and says that I think you have this and you can do this, and the academia says I know I can deliver it for you, but it's not going to happen. The second point that particularly for CGT that I think is that we don't have enough clinicians here. For example, I mean, we do have somebody who have been physicians. All of these dialogues cannot mean much unless you involve the clinicians here, because you really don't know what the unmet needs are. You really don't know what the diversity and the spectrum. And Satya, you did speak about heterogeneity. India is particularly a bigger problem because of the genetic diversity that we have, and it's going to be much worse than just copying the West. And in fact, what Arun said is that India First Global is useful because what we can deliver will be applicable to the rest of the world, because we potentially will take care of the heterogeneity that exists in the population. So clinicians have to be involved. The third point that I'm going to highlight is that, no offense, this is a great forum, but what do we do after this? We all go back, we all feel good, we said some things that were useful, all of them relevant, but what do we do after this, right? I think we need to form task forces and identify people who will go door to door, knock on the industry and the academia, and make sure that we do this in an altruistic manner and set up some verticals that deliver at the end of the day and make some things which are sure shot success stories. Otherwise, this divide continues to remain. Two more points. On the science part, as much as CGT has to work, I think we also have an enormous opportunity to utilize what are called chemogenetic approaches, because we have fantastic chemists in India, we have fantastic molecular biologists in India. I think we are missing the chemogenetic approaches because you can also bring in a tunable response, which is missing if you just simply do a cell and gene therapy base. How do I see it from an academia? For example, we are leading as part of CDFT to set up the first bioinnovation cluster in India, which will have all academia and all industry at one place. The discussions are ongoing on. We have been told that state will also provide additional land. The idea is to set up centers of excellence of the academia, of each of the institutions that are present in the Hyderabad sector, and ask them to own a vertical. It could be a MAB, it could be metabolic engineering, it could be vector generation, it could be anything.
And how do you foresee industry involvement in the COEs?
So the industry involvement would be, if you have a larger industry, you can actually help set up GMP facilities that could not only be useful for you, but also be useful for startup ecosystems. Now, we all talk about ecosystems, but are we doing enough to make this ecosystem happen? And here again, like I said, this began about 2 weeks ago, and then in fact now we are going from institute to institute to make sure that we have a buy-in from every institute in Hyderabad. We already have 3 institutes coming board, and we have 4 more. We're very keen to get this thing.
And you have the funding earmarked already?
Yeah, no, that's not there. That's where it becomes very tricky, right? What is it? Who has the skin in the game? So unless you identify who has the skin in the game, all of these discussions will be futile, and we'll go back and we keep regurgitating the same discussions over and over again, right? So my point is, let's actually identify an opportunity here and then set a task and get that task finished. So I'm just going to emphasize the idea that we have is that, like I said, each of the institution will have a center of excellence. That means the scale and scope of intellectual diversity that you want, you will not be able to find in one institution in India, right?
Correct.
So therefore, you will have, for the industry, a one-stop solution to interact with experts and expertise, spanning from, let's say, a University of Hyderabad through TIFR to CDFT to CCMB and whomsoever it matters. Academia also have incubators, right? We all take pride in incubatees, but then what happens after has been a disaster, right? Because all of us know there's valley of death. So now the idea is that we move all of these incubators to this common space, because there is also peer mentoring and peer learning that happens, which we are missing here, right? We are fragmented academically, fragmented industrially.
Correct. I agree. So there is something about increasing density. Right?
And coalescing and learning from each other's mistakes, which we are not doing. And of course, we are scaling, and we are hoping that the DBT will put in money. The state is willing to put in money, and we hope the industries will also come on board and do this. Lastly, I think the most important thing that we all spoke about is human capital, right? I think the industry should start rolling out PhD fellowships. Gone are the days where government can support PhD fellowships. If this does not happen, we all sit and crib. I don't think we can change it. We can't change the government regulatories. We can't change the UGC requirements for a PhD fellowship. The only way this is going to work out, if industry come together and say, there is a need for us to get better talent, and we will institute fellowships for PhDs and postdocs.
This is wonderful. I think, I don't know, I might lack information, but I haven't seen industry PhD fellowship at scale like I see in the Western world. Exactly. And I always wondered why. And maybe
there are a few pockets though. In Sun Pharma
they have something.
Yeah, but they're not giving as fellowships on a competitive basis, which can be sought out by. So there is always MOU based 1 or 2 things that the fellowships are that only if I get a product back from this PhD I will fund this. No, that's not the way. You should make it open. The amount of money industry is going to put in this fellowship is going to be a fraction of a peanut.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
It's a fraction of a peanut.
That's a very well pointed point by Ullas. Thank you for that. I think we would come to this again. Arun, you wanted a very 30-second quick intervention?
30 seconds. So many of us know that there is something called mandated by law, corporate social responsibility that any profit-making company in India has to do. it's 1% of their total profit or something of that nature. If part of that can be kept aside for three things: talent development, health, and payer mentalities for investments, that is actually truly corporate social responsibility rather than putting up a dustbin or putting up a bus shelter.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think what Ullah said, for a city like Hyderabad, which is globally known as a pharma center, to now transition into a CGT center would be very interesting to see. And what role does this huge, amazingly big academic institutions that have their own history for the last 40, 50, 70 years can help do this. And this is organic. It will be organic like we talked about Boston, that Vaibhav mentioned. Let me come to this side, bring in Indranil for 2-3 minutes, then go to that side, and then I'll open it up amongst ourselves and then open it up to students. Just pause for 30 seconds. How many students are here? Raise your hands. Okay, and what do? You are doing undergrad, masters? PhDs. Okay, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I can guarantee that for some time, but we will talk about it. I will bring in you as well. Okay, and all of you are from Hyderabad. Those who are not from Hyderabad, raise your hands. I mean, as in you are studying in Hyderabad, right? Okay, great. Sorry, see, there's a way of I didn't communicate properly. Lesson learned. Let me come to Indranil. Indranil.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. I know Dr. Das, so I have to
Please don't use prefixes.
maintain the 3-minute. I know the consequences. So now I'll tell you something which I'm not in agreement with Dr. Anand when he says India first globally, because I think that we need to clean our own house first, then look at the globe. And although it's a fantastic concept which we should look down the line, but currently the need of the hour is quite basic. As Professor Bhattacharya said, that Mukhopadhyay said, that raw material is one of the main thing. And in my journey, I saw that media comes from Lonza, media comes from Singapore, there's that nothing from India. So why can't we just make a media? High media has been supported by government, but I don't think anything came up to reflect Ullas's thing. That what is the accountability of taking government money and not delivering? So that kind of regulation should be more stringent. The other thing is that, Cytiva is a machine which we use for making kati. It is nothing but a glorified centrifuge. We have sent, seriously.
I don't think the Cytiva people marketing team will be happy about this.
That's why I did not mention anything about Milton. I don't want to get slaughtered. I think Milton is in
sure. We're going to cut this out, okay? Go ahead.
So,
I don't mind, otherwise IKP will get a sue order.
So if we can send a satellite to Mars, we can easily make this. So my point is that government should encourage the ecosystem of making, the fantastic journey of IKP. 200 acres of land was given, and then this was developed. So something like the cell and gene therapy hub, which is being planned here, should focus on manufacturing. And the other thing is that Vector Biomed has gone into an agreement with Brazil government, with Egyptian government. I think India government can also do something, given that Brazil and Egypt is not advanced countries. So where the government themselves intervene to produce a lentiviral particle at much cheaper rate, which would cut down the cost of cell and gene therapy, CAR T cell, amazingly. It would be 1/10 of the current cost.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think, Arun, have your swords drawn out a bit later. Not now, I'm just kidding. Let me pass to Anu. She's been quietly waiting. Anu, couple of points quickly, and then we'll go to Ramesh, then to Vadiraja, and then we'll open it up to the other side, Rajiv and others.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A couple of points from my side is, we are talking about discovery, development, everything. One thing which I have heard is people come from academia, so the kind of business mindset needed. So again, it goes back to the skill development part on, what next? So they have a product, they have a concept, but how to launch it in the market, right?
Just pause there. PhD students, how many of you want to join industry after your PhD? Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Everybody. Also, how many of you want to be a prof? Ullas, we have problem here. Okay. Right. No, to Ullas's point, can't we have, like you mentioned about having PhDs fellowship by academia. Why can't academia really scale, professor in practice and have people, at least on this roundtable, have professor of practice in academia?
So,
Nitesh is smiling. I think I'll come to you later.
So this is an important thing. In fact,
Anu, just pause a second. Yeah.
I have been actually advocating policy where academia should have visiting faculty from the industry as well. So
Then they have to also take approval from the head of the department for attending conferences, or they can just go.
exactly.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of regulatory problems. One of the things is, can we recognize each other and let people spend on both sides? And that's been a tough battle, and I'm kind of pushed hard. Looks like in DPT it might happen in the near future, but the systems are extremely difficult. Ideally, CSR systems should have already done it, because having industry people spend time there will be a fantastic opportunity, and vice versa.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anu.
Thank you. Just to that point, that's a very good point which you raised, and we often hear things in discussion like this, that there should be some internship program for 6 months to 1 year for students to get into industry, get to know that. One thing is, what are the different departments in industry, but that's a good thing. What needs to be done to make them stay back and do the innovation? Right. So how do we incentivize or give fellowship to them so that they are motivated to stay back? Or even if they are going for their postdocs outside, how do we ensure that they come back? And when they are coming back, they have all the facilities, infrastructure to do the research the level they want to do. So that was one point. But now I will come back to the USP, what USP is doing.
Please
so
do.
we have heard globally that there is a need for standardization. So if you are developing, say, AAV or LV vector, how would you ensure quality for this, right? Even if you design your media in-house, how would you ensure quality? So that's where USP, and again, the complexities involved, right? It's more personalized. We have heard heterogeneity is there. So again, what we are also trying to do is looking at the platform approaches, which Dr. Amrish mentioned about, is that at AAV level, what are the vector attributes which need to be monitored. So we are coming up with standards for that, whether it is a documentary standard which will list down the best practices which are followed by industry, so that at least someone has a good point to start with. And then there will be certain standards, something like full and empty capsid is one of the aspect which is very crucial. So then we are trying to come up with the standard which can be used by industry, so that at least even for regulators it will be easy to see that, okay, this has a kind of have followed the correct system suitability, correct quality measures, so that that it will not create any adverse effects. So like that, AV, LV vector, plus some of the critical reagents, raw materials. So we have made a full list of things needed, and we are developing standards for that. But maybe it's a good time that we start, talking about it in India more. Maybe we have not been doing it, but recently, there is a chapter on best practices. So these are some of the things, and also we are collaborating with DBT BIREC to make sure that, academia also knows about what is pharmacopoeia, how these standards are used, because they get to know about pharmacopoeia when they enter industry, not before that. So these are some of the things which, as a USP, we are taking care of. So considering the time, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Anu. Thank you. Very good point. And of course, USP is a global leader in standards and documentation. I'll go to Ramesh, then I'll jump here and then come here again. So Ramesh, a couple of points quickly.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm coming from a physician, incubator and innovators and academia perspective. We had some success stories, small success stories on cell and gene therapy at LV Prasad Eye Institute. one lesson learned is in all these years is if you have to make a product, there has to be a collaboration, maybe it with the physician, maybe with the doctor, maybe with the industry, maybe with the engineer. Same thing I would say for CGT. If you want to have a patient-centric, patient at the center, tomorrow, maybe in 5 years, India wants to bring 5 gene therapy into effect. We have to start the work together, maybe with academia, maybe as Ullas said, some kind of collaboration, because PhD students will do research on basic science, which is required. But
not always, no? I mean, you can have directed translational PhD.
That's what I am saying. Some of those, maybe, if you go to academia, there are 100 theses have come, 100 PhD students have passed out. There are IPs lying there without even licensing. So we have to really have a bigger picture. All the academias working should have, maybe one institute should have, okay, I will work on this. Probably all our translational research should work towards that area. So if there are clusters created around India, probably 100 IITs and CDFTs and CCMBs, they can come up with these kind of translational thing, which will be a big foundation. Otherwise, we'll have a lot of basic science.
Absolutely.
So this is very important because unless we have those ecosystems, specifically in Hyderabad, but I think we need to nurture it together to make it happen, keeping the patient in the center, because as of now, we are struggling to there are for retinal dystrophy, 2 or 3 gene therapies are available. If I can talk to the patient, I cannot, because the testing facilities have improved like anything. It's an over-proliferation of labs in India right now. We need to bring some regulatory thing there. If I can talk to a parent, I can tell the genotypic and phenotypic. What next? I'm still waiting and waiting. Probably in the next 5 years, can the government, donors, academia, and people working as a clinician, can we create 5 focused areas as an overarching goal and create that focus? Otherwise, we'll talk about 110 or 200 and nothing moves. Probably that kind of decision has to be coming out of these kind of roundtables where we all work together. I think one word is important, then I'll stop. Collaboration is the most important if you want to deliver to the patient. This is what we felt. Thank you.
Wonderful. I think you mentioned about translational aspects. One big lacuna we have is effective